Oh no, guys. I know I feel like the last two topics of this stream have all been pretty much in the same wheelhouse. This one's going to be as well. But I feel the amount of headlines that have hit in the last couple days, I would be remiss not to be covering them, because they're all quite substantial. We got this news yesterday. Truly dystopian. Experts worry Trump's school vaccine plan will spark, and I quote, public health catastrophe. A former lawmaker raised alarms after former President Donald Trump's vow in Virginia to defund public schools that require vaccines. You heard that right. Trump, who has repeatedly vowed not to, quote, give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate, repeated his call during an appearance in Richmond on Saturday, according to former Republican or Representative Barbara Comstock, Republican of Virginia. Trump said in Richmond that he will take all federal funds away from public schools that require vaccines. She tweeted, quote, like most states, Virginia requires MMR vaccine, chickenpox vaccine, polio, etc. So Trump would take millions in federal funds away from all Virginia public schools. Or, God forbid, they actually give in to Trump's demands and don't require vaccines anymore. I would, it would be so fucked. Like, the amount of anti-vax parents in certain areas would literally lead to mass outbreaks in every red state. Like, we would see huge, we would have to, quarantine off. Like, the blue states would have to... I honestly think we would see blue states implementing travel bans on red states. Like, if you come from one of those states, you have to, quarantine for 14 days or something. Because you could bring, countless deadly diseases with you from a red state. Isn't that going to be awesome? Like, if Trump wins, every red state becomes, a third world country. Like, yeah, fuck. I went to Alabama, and I got fucking West Nile virus or something. I don't know. Like you're literally, it's more dangerous to go to a red state in America than it is to go to, wherever it is in Africa that's considered a very high likelihood of getting a disease from a mosquito or whatever. It just straight up, we have to quarantine people, travel bans. It's gonna be like in a prototype game where you've got the red zones. Red zone is gonna mean two things at once. Baylor University professor Dr. Peter Hotez wrote, hoping he doesn't really mean it since it would create a public health catastrophe for the nation. Professor Peter Hotez, a MD and PhD, basically is just horrified. Former United States Secretary of Education Arne Duncan posed a question to parents across America asking, quote, is this really what you want for your children? Do you want them going to poorly funded schools with children much more likely to be sick? Only an authoritarian leader would want citizens to be poorly educated and not healthy. Truly dystopian. Dude, this is really, really worrying. Because the fact is, this worked in Florida on a different issue. When they essentially banned the teaching of AP psychology in high schools across Florida, it basically meant that, Florida said, but you can still teach it if you just cut out any teachings that have to do with gender identity. The problem is if you cut that out, it's no longer an all-encompassing education on the topic, and thus no longer acceptable for college credits. So thus a useful class, or useless class to take in the first place. So they've effectively just banned AP psychology. That's just a small-scale version of what Trump wants to do. Here we go. Implications for public health and education. Trump's promise to cut funding for schools adhering to vaccine mandates is not only a direct challenge to public health policies, but also a threat to the educational sector's autonomy. This stance exacerbates the ongoing debate around Florida vaccine mandates in schools, with instances of measles outbreaks in states like Florida and Philadelphia, Philadelphia's not a state, highlighting the critical role vaccines play in safeguarding community health. The defiance against federal health guidelines, as seen in Florida's approach under Surgeon General Joseph Lapido, who is not in any way whatsoever qualified for that job, might I add, who believes vaccines are evil and, like, viruses you get sick from, like, the humors or something. Yeah, the defiance against federal health guidelines, as seen in Florida's approach under Surgeon General Joseph Lapido, further complicates the nation's efforts to combat preventable diseases, raising concerns about the long-term impact of such policies on America's public health landscape. A divisive political stance with real-world consequences. The politicization of vaccine mandates by figures like Trump has profound implications beyond the realm of public health. It signifies a broader trend of leveraging health policies for political gain, risking the well-being of millions, especially children, in the process. As the nation grapples with the fallout of such divisive politics, the importance of grounded, science-based approaches to public health has never been more apparent. Trump's recent declarations not only jeopardize the strides made in disease prevention, but also underscore the urgent need for rational discourse and policymaking in the face of public health crises. I don't know how to pronounce that word, crises. As the debate around vaccine mandates and public health policies continues to unfold, the implications on Trump's stance serve as a stark reminder of the challenges facing the United States. The potential defunding of schools enforcing vaccine mandates not only threatens to undermine efforts to protect public health, but also highlights the intersection of politics and health policy in shaping the nation's response to preventable diseases. As America looks forward towards the future, the critical question remains: can the nation afford to politicize public health, especially at the cost of its children's well-being? I need to emphasize how horrible this will be and how it's already just beginning, and it's going to get so much worse if Trump gets reelected. Measles outbreak, that's right. It is happening all over the country.
Health experts are monitoring a measles outbreak.
This is just the most recent example. This is from yesterday.
And local experts are keeping a close eye on cases nearby.
Yeah, doctors encouraging folks to, of course, get their vaccines after a couple confirmed cases come out of the greater New Orleans area. Kelly Hubbard actually spoke with the doctors.
Here, 1 sec. It's very quiet. There we go.
Find out the symptoms, just how important it is to get the measles vaccine. Callie?
Awooga.
And good morning to you, Matt and Liz. And get this, the FDA says that measles is one of the most contagious respiratory diseases in the world, and it is so common in a lot of different countries as well. It spreads spreads through the air when an infected person coughs or sneezes. Measles normally starts with a fever and then causes a cough, runny nose, and red eyes. People will get
I always felt like measles was one of those things that, like, spreads via skin-to-skin or, like, saliva contact or something like that. You know, I grew up in a time when it was extinct in America. You see, modern-day culture war bullshit has brought back this shit. I thought it was an STD. It definitely sounds like an STD. Measles, yeah. No, it spreads like a cold. Really goes to show the fact that we'd, like, eviscerated measles before. It really goes to show how possible it was to stop COVID, you know? And to, of course, prevent this in the first place. Like, it's not like measles has never been in America before. It ravaged this country for a long time, and America worked hard to get rid of it, and now it's back. I guess Spanish flu and smallpox and polio are next. Dude, can you fucking imagine? We're actually going to see polio epidemics happen because of the anti-vaxxers. I really hope it's only the anti-vaxxers getting it. Unfortunately, it's probably the anti-vaxxers' kids. That's the thing. The people really suffering here overwhelmingly are children. It's the children that are getting it and spreading it and catching it. And it's the parents who are probably already vaccinated with it themselves when they were kids that are the MMR vaccine that are just basically, without any harm to themselves, hurting their kids, all for a political cause. The anti-vax warriors.
A rash of tiny red spots that start at the head, spreading to the rest of the body. Doctors say that because there is no cure, treatment is really geared toward alleviating symptoms. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, before the U.S. measles vaccination program started in 1963, nearly 4 million people nationwide got measles each year, and of those, about 500 people died.
God, I feel like I need some lotion or something. My nose is, like, dry. The sides of my nose, it's like itchy.
48,000 were hospitalized. The FDA says the U.S. widespread use of the vaccine has led to a 99% reduction in measles cases compared with before.
The fact that we eviscerated this disease from the country for decades, and it just is back now. There's no rhyme or reason why it should be back. It's just anti-vaxxers decided we're not getting vaccinated. We're not letting our kids get vaccinated. We're going to make them suffer with something that rightfully they should never even know exists until they're like teenagers learning about diseases in history class. God. Like it really does upset me that it's kids that are going to suffer for the choices of their parents with this.
Before the vaccination program began, and on the local level, we asked doctors if people are still getting the vaccine like they used to.
Yes, they are not quite as high. We're typically seeing about 93% of children receiving the vaccination currently, which is a little bit of a dip from our previous 95%, and that's what you really kind of need.
This guy is very ginger.
For herd immunity.
And we also talked to an infectious disease expert from Austria. We're going to have more from him coming up on 9 News this morning, guys.
A lot to follow, Callie. Thank you.
Well, that seems to be the end of the video. Regardless, though, I think what's important to point out here is it's all going to be kids that are going to be suffering for the choices of parents here. It's not going to be like adult, conservative anti-vaxxers getting COVID and suffering for the choice of not getting the vaccine. That's a different situation. The MMR vaccine has been like the standard to be vaccinated with and boosted with for decades. Many of these anti-vaxxer parents, not all of them, but many of them, are already vaccinated for it. Meaning they are literally, realistically, only hurting their kids, and they have no actual worry, realistically. They're also probably the type of parents that, like, when their kids do get measles, they're gonna be like, get the fuck out of bed. You're not that sick. It's not that big a deal. You're not falling for that liberal propaganda. Don't be a pansy. You're going to school. And then send their little disease vectors straight to school. You know they're those types of parents. You know for a fact that's true. I'm actually curious, if you have parents like that are like not letting you get vaccinated because they're anti-vaxxers, comment down below. I know most of my audience are quite old, but obviously if this was something that happened to you when you were younger, certainly tell me in the comments. I'm curious. Or if you knew anybody who was in that situation, I'd like to hear those stories. I've been reading comments a lot more lately, and I don't know, I enjoy doing it. I've been hearting and liking and responding to a lot more comments lately, and it's an enjoyable pastime. So consider telling me if you've had any stories like that or you know of any.